All right, so one day in 7th grade, I was sitting at home and I was waiting for a Mariah Carey video to come on. Back then I was only listening to like Motown and R&B. I mean, back then you can't just listen to a song when you want. You have to like wait till someone else listens to it and then puts it on TV or radio. So I was watching MTV and I was like, oh, it's been an hour since they played that sweet Mariah Carey song. And while I was waiting, a Smashing Pumpkins video came on and it was like, blew my mind. At the time, like rock music was way more edgy and like it was something that it can kind of freak you out. Now it's like you hear a lot of these songs on like in like Pixar movies. Like I think I heard like an AC/DC song in a Pixar or like a DreamWorks movie, and I was like, man, when I was a kid, that was the kind of music you like hid in your room and listened to. So I hear the song. It changed I was just like, I couldn't stop listening to it. I actually had a VHS in my thing, waiting to record the Mariah Carey video, and I got the Smashing Pumpkins video. I must have watched that video a million times. So I went and asked my parents if I can get a guitar to learn to play guitar, and they said no. And I said, why? Please, please. And like 2 months go by, I think, and I was begging and begging. And my dad just said, listen, if we get you a guitar, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to like bite the head off of a bat. And you have to understand, like, I'm 42 now, so when I was in like middle school, that meant my parents, when they were young, they were in like the 50s and 60s. And the music they listened to was like, like, wah, 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 wah. And then like not long after that, like people were biting heads off bats. So they saw like a total shift in like the arts. They were concerned, and I totally get it. But long story short, they give me a guitar, and I'm horrible at it. It wasn't until one day when I was in my middle school and I saw a kid drumming on someone's backpack that I went up to him and I said, hey, do you guys play in a band? And they said, well, we jam. We're looking for someone else. And so they invited me in. And within only a couple weeks, I got so much better. I went up to them, and actually the guitar player, and I said, oh man, I'm so happy you guys invited me to this group. I can finally play the guitar. And he said, no, you can't. And he's like, no, what you can do is play songs on the guitar. You can't actually play the guitar. And that just crushed me. The imposter syndrome, that was the first like real moment of imposter syndrome. And this is something that we all deal with. Am I a poser or am I authentic? We deal with this. Over time, I learned that's how you learn things. When I started reading more, I started, learning philosophy. You realize like everyone is borrowing from somebody, and so I took what I did when I was in that band and I replicated it in many different areas of my life. So it was like if I wanted to play football, I would go and try and mimic. If I wanted to learn, something else, whatever, I would just go and mimic, someone who's really good at it. And I learned that was a really good way to learn. It was later that like I was reading Harold Bloom, like the great literary critic out of Yale, where he said, all great artists from the past, the ones that we remember today, they were merely responding to a poet that they loved, but misunderstanding them. But that also led them to kind of be unique. And he said, so it's basically mimicry and then mimicking a little bit wrong and getting something unique. And so that explained why I got so good at guitar so fast. Rather than taking guitar lessons and learning chords and theory, I went and mimicked. And so when I wanted to become a professional illustrator, I incorporated that same thing I did when I was in 7th grade playing in that garage with that band. And it produced quality art so much faster than what most people are doing. And so much so that I do this same thing every single day when I start working. I've never heard anyone do this. I didn't read in a book. I'm sure there's artists that do this. But this is how I generate ideas, I get better at design, all this stuff, and it's one of the easiest things you can do. I'm going to show you right now. All right, let's go. All right, here we are. Like I'm in a bubble. Anyways, as you can see, I've got, which way am I going to, it's like the weather. I got this value box that I got. Why do I have this? Like, what am I doing? Well, a lot of people, when they draw, there's 3 steps to learning the right way. Well, there's 2 steps. I won't say 3 because I won't say this is like the infallible rule or whatever. But a lot of people, when they get a sketchbook, they start drawing a face in it. And it's like, the paper is my canvas. And it's like, no, you learn to draw little squares or little rectangles and you start designing small and then you work bigger and bigger and bigger. I design that way sometimes. Like if I know exactly what I'm going to draw, like if it's like a client's like, we need a fire truck that flies in the sky and it needs to have wings and it's being, or no, it has balloons. You already know what you got to do. You know where the placement's going to be. You know, like it needs to be looking up, or it's in the clouds or whatever. You don't really need to be explorative. But I consider myself a writer just with painting, and I don't really consider myself an illustrator purely. When I do something, I'm always trying to generate a story idea. I think about like big concepts and like themes and blah, 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 blah. Another reason I do it this way is because when you're designing and like a lot of art really is transformed by light and shadow, I'd rather be able to like come in here and be like, okay, my horizon line's way up here. And then up here there's a house, okay, or a farm or whatever. You know, it could be a farm if you want it to be. We like farms. I don't really care how good it looks. Like if I was gonna do this with pencil and just draw it in, like whatever, it's boring. It's like whatever, that's kind of boring. But if I were to like put some shadow on this, because I can do it really quick. But if I just came here and I was like, oh yeah, like, and it has a shadow right here. I don't know how often that a shadow is like that, whatever. But it already tells a story. It already gives a mood. You see what I mean? And it's like, and then there's like a little guy walking here, a little person, and then you can see their shadow. And it's actually kind of cool. You can kind of like do this. Shadows, light and shadows can already like give you a feel. And so I like to work quick. I always tell people I think of story ideas like a kid or a person looking into the clouds. And that's why I design this way. I just think it's so much better. It's really quick. So remember how I was in a band and I couldn't learn to play guitar? And it's because when I went to take a guitar lesson, they taught me a chord. It was like G chord, and then it was like C chord, and then it was like D chord. I'm actually doing the chords. And it was like dun, 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 dun. It was just like, didn't get the overall concept. But when I started hanging out with these friends, they would teach me a song from a band, and I'd get the rhythm, the timing. I knew, because I'd heard the songs, I knew right when to like play a little harder, whatever. And just feeling that song and playing with someone else, it was like how quickly that transformed my ability, because I knew where I needed to be. I started learning everything that way, like I already said. And so what do? I look at other artists. I'm not stealing what they're doing. I'm merely going to just come in here. And I'm just going to say, and this is Lee White, by the way. He was a guy that taught at the online school I went to at SVS. It's a really cool school. I like Lee, Jake, Will. They're all dope. I was on their podcast, so if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's a little too far. But anyways, so you can see, I'm just kind of coming in here quick, trying to get general shapes. I'm not even trying to get it exactly right. I'm just kind of going like, yeah, whatever. Because if I really like what's going on, let's say it's in my own painting, I know I'll mess with it a little bit more. But when I'm doing this, it's like I'm just kind of feeling out what he's doing. I just want to be like, okay, so that's down there, and there's like some things right here that aren't so bright. I mean, actually, they're not even dark; they're actually bright. But for just getting the gist, let's just say that's fine. This here, okay, it's like this kite on this thing. I try not to use too thin a brush. I don't want to draw. I want to design, so I'm just bringing, you can always go smaller after. That's what you want to do anyways. And now he's got this rabbit down here. It's like right here. Okay. And he's got like this. He's like this. And he got a little ball tail. Now I'm going to put his eyes in just because that kind of tells me exactly what I'm looking at. All right, next one. Check out how simple this is. Like when people go to like draw or even play an instrument, they're like, okay, like how do I play Mozart? Why don't you look at like the simplicity of things first? Why don't you like stop being that way, man? No, it's all right. Everybody does it. And even, me, when I'm like designing, I'm like, man, I need to like be Shantan, or I need to be, Marco Bucci and all these, and you start feeling like crap because you realize like you just aren't them or whatever. But when you do this, you break down the simplicity. You can kind of just get a feel, right? So anyways, so he's got some rain coming down here, like little balls. And I'm not even trying to get exactly where they're at. I'm just kind of feeling this out like this, I know the direction. I don't have to be exact with where he's at. I'm just kind of going, oh, this is what it feels like. Because the goal is to get it to feel. You just want to feel it. You don't want to overdo it. Anyway, so that's another Lee White. Let's do one more Lee White. You're going to see me go here again. You're getting the gist here. I don't need to be super detailed. Okay, so you can see where this is going. It's not that complicated. Now you see what I'm doing? It's just this easy. Now it's like, oh man, like I can just come in here and I don't want to copy. You don't want to be like, oh, I just put buildings here. It's like you can just go, oh yeah, like this. Like this. Like that's a good placement for something, right? Or how about this? Let's see. Let's do a little more complicated one. Okay, so we got this shape up here. All right. Now what? It's like, well, maybe this one doesn't have anything down here, but this one does. And now I'm breaking free of Lee. So I'll do it more like this. It's a little more off. A little off. What if there's like a chimney here? It's a kid sitting here. Or how about a little pirate? How about a little pirate kid? They're just somewhere here. Maybe that chimney is kind of dumb because it's like it's right in the way. So it's like, why not like him and his I don't know, like a bag of his treasure chest. His treasure chest. This is how I think. This is how I come up with ideas. Okay. Let me show you how far I've gotten before I painted something, and whatever. So this was one that I did, and I was just like, that's it. This is exactly what I wanted. And I didn't know what I was painting. I was just putting shapes. And I just saw something in this. Like I was like, what is that? Like a wizard gopher? I'm like, what's up top? Like whatever. But I just liked the movement. I didn't put much lighting into it or whatever. So I sat with it and I started drawing it out. And it came out to be this. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And you can see here, like I have this canvas. I'm like, oh, I want him to be painting. Because I don't know, was that in the value? No, I added that in the drawing. See, I'm constantly redoing it as I go. And it's like, okay, there's the drawing. Okay, and then it's like, then when I went to paint it, I even changed it a little bit more, right? So like, look at, there's no hat on this character. His head's a little bigger. He's a little taller. And now, yeah, I kind of rounded him out. And now it's like, I wanted him, as I was painting it, I was like, oh, that's funny. Like, what if he's like kind of like a surrealist painter and he's kind of making this ugly bald eagle with his like, artsy degree from Mouse College. And then this bald eagle had enough. So that's how I do it. That's how I come up with ideas. That's how I get better at design. I actually have to get to work now on a bunch of projects. So I'm glad I could help. If you liked it, please subscribe or whatever. Is that what you're supposed to do? Beg here? I don't know. But anyways, thanks for the people that have subscribed already. It's a young channel. I'm still working things out. And now I'm going to snap, I guess. Anyways, see you later.